This is Midlife Reclaimed, a podcast that dares to ask the question, is there a better way to live this chapter of our lives? A few years ago now, early in my midlife chapter, I experienced a life-changing burnout. A burnout that made me question my career as a psychologist, my relationships, but also the culture in which I live in, which celebrated or seemed to celebrate this busy hustle culture. So this catapulted me into a midlife course correction, and something that I continue to be on a journey on in terms of reclaiming and creating my midlife. And I'd love you to join in with me. Here we'll question the life-draining systems that exist in our society, and we will open up to our vulnerability with open hearts to find real lasting change. I will open up and share some of my vulnerability, as well as guests who choose to do the same, but also share practical wisdom from my profession, but also from other professions to help guide you with the wisdom needed to explore this chapter of your life and create it the way that you need to. I believe midlife is an opportunity to look in, to discover what is truly satisfying, fulfilling for you, and making those changes along the way. So if you're ready to call out what's broken, connect to your vulnerability like it's a superpower, and reclaim what is truly authentic for you, then you're in the right place. This is Midlife Reclaimed. Let's challenge the status quo, shape a better future for this chapter in our lives, one brave, courageous step at a time. Engaging in this podcast does not intend to create, nor does it create, a therapist and client relationship between you and myself. All the wisdom shared by myself or the guests is general in nature and not intended for your personal circumstances. As I have done for myself, I encourage those who are in distress to seek professional support. If you are in a life-threatening situation, please call your national emergency services. And if you're in need of urgent counselling, please contact any available national telephone services in your nation, or see your doctor as soon as possible. Stay safe. And please remember that you do not need to do this alone. Welcome to episode 55 of Midlife Reclaimed podcast. I'm Shannon, and this episode was truly ground-shaking for me. My guest is Lora Cheadle, a coach, ex-attorney, author, and speaker whose work reframes what many of us assume is burnout, but revealing something deeper: betrayal. In my own story, and in the stories of the midlife women I walk alongside, I have noticed that beneath the overwhelm often lies a fracture, a rupture of trust, of expectation, of identity. Listening to Lora speak about betrayal as a hidden cause of burnout felt like discovering a missing link in this piece. So in this really in-depth discussion with Lora, she shares both her lived experience, including a long-term betrayal in her marriage, and the betrayal of being a young attorney working in law in America. And she shares with us her powerful F.U.E.L UP framework, which offers a roadmap to move through betrayal and return to yourself with clarity and worth. Whether the betrayal for you comes from the workplace, a partner, a friend, or even from within yourself, this episode is a must listen. I'll be forever thankful that I met Lora and learned so much from her, and I hope her insights, our chat, meet you right where you are today. Hey Lora, welcome to Midlife Reclaimed. It's absolutely fantastic that we've arrived to this point to have this conversation, because it's been a while in the making, but welcome.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. It's going to be a good one, I think.
Definitely. I think you reached out to me with this proposal, and when I saw the topic and where your passions lie and the work that you're doing, I was like, I've got to have Lora on the show. And then when I met you, and yeah, we could chat to the cows come home.
Definitely.
Definitely have you on. So, hey, before we dive into the topic of betrayal and burnout, what led you to this work? Was there a defining experience or moment for you?
Oh, absolutely. And, as usual, there were a couple of them.
Mm,
I started off as a corporate attorney, and I really had that idea that I was doing everything right and I could, be all things to all people all the time. And spoiler alert, it didn't work out that way. And
mm,
I ended up burning out. And
mm,
I had had two kids, and I just couldn't hold it all together. My husband was traveling.
mm,
Work as an attorney is intense. Two children
mm,
under two is intense. A lot of personal things were happening. My grandparents were in hospice and were in various stages of dying, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I walked
mm,
away.
mm,
And I
mm.
thought that was like my first touch with burnout. This is just too much.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm really passionate about this. So I'm going to start learning some more about burnout. I'm going to start helping other women in my position because women are givers. We go all in, we put ourselves last.
Mm,
And and I did a lot of great work around that, but the
mm,
tools didn't always work.
mm,
All the traditional things about boundaries and
mm,
doing yoga or meditation, it didn't always work. And
mm,
I didn't really know why. And it wasn't until I had a horrible, horrible infidelity experience with my husband. I
um,
found out he had been cheating for 15 of our 23 years
oh, Lord.
together.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
that I learned about betrayal and what it really was, and what
mm,
betrayal trauma was, and how that manifested, and
mm,
what the remedy for betrayal was. And then it was like all the light bulbs went off. What I had been experiencing at work, it wasn't just burnout. There was a profound sense of betrayal.
mm.
And that's where it really started making sense. And that's what led me to the work that I do.
Oh wow. Laura, just so much in that, so much pain, so much suffering, that you've been through. And I really admire that journey of discovery. Like you really went into the burnout and then the betrayal and making those links. Like it's yeah, just such a journey. And I appreciate you sharing that with us too, because there's a lot of pain there. And as you were saying that word betrayal, and the experience of that and the link with the work, I just got it's like almost like a light from the depths of my body, or just I don't even know how, like a little bit of electric, because it's just something I'm really dawning on, and I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about maybe that experience of betrayal in the workplace, or just yeah, speaking to that
Yeah.
betrayal, and how that differs to burnout, or how that relates to burnout, or yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
All of that. All of
mm,
that. Because betrayal is a human experience that we all experience in so many different forms, but it's
mm.
not something we talk about a lot. It's
No.
not something we understand. If you look at the definition of betrayal, it's
Mm,
the breaking of an expectation that
mm,
you have relied on that ruptures your view of yourself or the world. So
mm,
it's not just, oh, darn it, they were out of chocolate and I have to have vanilla now.
mm,
It's
mm,
an expectation that you
mm.
hold about the way things should be, about who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even
And
how, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just say, as you're saying, like expectation of who you are or the world or work. I just wanted to add, or others, right? How
Yes.
you held or what you expected from them, partner, friend, colleague, boss. Yeah, the other
Yeah.
as well, and the
Yeah.
systems and ourselves. Yeah, expectation. I
Yes.
hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my worldview was if
Mm.
you do good, good things will come back to you.
Yeah.
If you work hard, you'll be rewarded. You
Mm.
know, that I will succeed, that I will be able to be the perfect wife and mom and have a full-time career, that people won't die or get sick,
Yeah.
or, you know what I mean? That my body will stay strong and healthy,
Mm.
that a COVID pandemic wouldn't happen. Who expected that?
No,
That
not, certainly not me.
no,
No,
no, not me either.
no
That
one.
political systems will remain fair and just. It's like we have these expectations that how the
Mm.
world is going to work. And
Yeah.
then when those expectations aren't met, it just guts you.
100%. Like I find in my work with women and men, but I tend to work a lot with women, expectations is often something we're talking about, and the shoulds and the must of those expectations. I often talk about it's often those thoughts where the shoulds or must come up, that there's an expectation here. Let's identify that. But what I haven't linked to it, and this is so enlightening, and I know it will be for the viewers as well, it's betrayal that's triggering potentially, and that's the feeling, that's the experience that goes when that expectation is not met. It
Yes.
breaks, which often it does, because the expectations you just shared as examples, which many of us have held or hold, are not
Hmm.
realistic either. Like, they're certainly ones we hold, but they're not realistic. We know we can work as hard as we can. It doesn't mean we'll be rewarded. um,
Right.
but we hold these. Where do they come from? Like, it's like, where did these
Yeah.
expectations come from? Is that something you can share too? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes just from growing up and the way that we're raised, because when we raise children, a lot of it is if you do this, then you'll get that. If you
Mm,
finish your dinner, then you'll get dessert.
yeah.
If you are, a good little girl or a good little boy and get the gold star, you'll get an A. So
Yeah.
we really think there's this correlation, this cause effect.
Mm,
And to a certain extent, yes, good employees might tend to get raises or promotions.
mm,
So, yes, it's just that we internalize so much more than
mm,
we really are aware that we are internalizing.
yeah. But not always
Yeah.
conscious of the expectations that we're holding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Us-
Because
mm,
looking back, you can
mm,
see them, but going forward, think about when you are graduating university or starting your first career job, we hold these positive expectations. People are
mm,
going to see how good I do. I'm
mm,
going to be able to clean up this mess. We
mm.
think that. And then when it
Yeah.
fails, we don't say, "Oh, I wonder if that was a realistic expectation."
Mm.
We say, "I messed that one up." Or
Yeah.
we blame. What did they do wrong?
Yes, there's that external or internalized blame. We move to that because again, I think that comes from childhood as well. We learn that something needs to be blamed. And sometimes there's
Yeah.
really no one thing. Sometimes it's just
Yes.
the wrong expectation that yeah. It's
Yeah.
so messy, isn't it? And it made me think of even expectations that health professionals hold that I hear a lot, including myself, that if I do the right thing, if I'm a good psychologist, my clients will like me, they'll get better. I'm a good psychologist if my clients have good outcomes. These expectations that inevitably, yes, sometimes are aligned, but other times, no, they're not 100%, but we often hold them so tightly to that way. And I hear that a lot. I know I held a lot of them, and in my healing from burnout, uh, yeah, certainly working on letting go of a lot of them. So I didn't take them forward when I returned. But
Hey there. I promise you this is just a short break from your podcast viewing or listening. Thank you, by the way, for tuning in to let you know where all of this started. Back in my burnout height, I kept a journal. And the reason I kept a journal, and I never kept a journal before, well, I kept a diary as a teenager, but only for a short while. But the reason why I chose to journal is because I realized how disconnected I had become from myself, and I really wanted to connect in. So I used writing as the way in which to do that. And I ended up publishing just myself these journal entries up on a blog and had a few followers and people who really found it helpful that I shared my very raw experiences, which later down the track, as I improved, I decided to put it into a book, which, just bear with me, it's just up here on my shelf, proudly. It's called Nothing Left to Give, A Psychologist's Path Back from Burnout, and basically is the collection of all the journal entries I kept for around a year. So from around December, January 2020, 20 to 21 to January the following year, so 2022. Yeah, so it's all in there. And also, besides the raw feelings, thoughts, everything that was coming up, lots of perfectionism, lots of self-sabotage, self-sacrifice, my journey into therapy, so many things are in there. And I've also included some of the all the wellness practices that often as I would journal, I would connect with, from my own knowledge and wisdom, being a psychologist, to help support me out of and beyond the burnout. I also was collecting a lot of knowledge and wisdom and skills at the time through the therapy I went into and did, and also just a lot of reading, listening to podcasts, and just stuff like that, building my resources. So it's all in there, and it's in ebook as well as paperback, just not audio yet. I'd love that. And it's $25.99 Australian, and for the ebook, $11.99 Australian. You can purchase it on Amazon in either of those forms. And please let me know if you do purchase it, read it. I'd love to hear from you, to see what it has meant to you. But back to your episode. Take care of you. Yeah, betrayal. Can you share a little bit more of that experience of betrayal? Because you said there earlier, I'm probably not repeating it right, but like a breaking, or just
Hmm.
felt so
Hmm.
visceral as you shared that little bit. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about betrayal, what that looks like, feels like? Mm.
Yes. It's rupturing your view of yourself or
Mm.
the world. And when your view of yourself, how you see yourself, the way we see ourselves is important. I am a good person. I am a kind person. I am a whatever. Like we think we know who we are.
Mm.
And when all of a sudden the bottom drops out of that, suddenly you have what you think of as evidence that I'm not this person. I'm
Mm.
not worthy. I'm not a good wife. I must not be pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not a good conversationalist. I am wrong. It
Mm.
turns very personal and it
Mm.
causes us to question our worth, our identity.
Mm.
And it's soul shattering.
Oh, yeah. I got the
Yeah.
buzz again in my body. Soul, definitely soul shattering, because it's who you are. It's your identity, your placing in the world that is being
Yeah.
shattered. That's makes me think of, we're wired to survive as a species, as a human being, and one of the things that we are wired to do is to belong. To
Yes.
That is part of the survival of our species, and this really ruptures that, because our sense of self and who we are and where we're placed in the world in relation to others and the world has been severed. So it's
Yeah.
it's soul shattering, as you said. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's just
Yeah.
making I think out loud sometimes. So,
No, it's
yeah.
it's
It's like,
good because then yeah, you see it. You see the dots connecting.
yeah. And it's like, what do you notice in your work and your experience? Because you've experienced this.
Hmm.
Like that, I mean, you're already talking to this, but I suppose because that's a strong experience to sit with. It
Oh, very painful.
But yeah, and I was just wondering, oh my God, like how does one, because that's often work I'm doing, not betrayal. This is very helpful for me professionally, but I'm learning so much from you. But um often other emotions people are sitting with, that
it can be so hard that they just avoid it and shut down. So I was just wondering if you can tell us, yeah, that, I know it sounds a bit of weird phrasing, but relationship with betrayal, how one works with that or sits with that or deals with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
No,
massive.
and that's the exact right word to use because it is a relationship with it.
Oh,
And it's one of those things that I crumbled. I think most people will crumble initially because it's shock. You were
yeah.
physically in shock, you were emotionally in shock, and I crumbled and I cried and I cried and I couldn't get off the floor and I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep and I couldn't function.
Mm,
And experiencing that lack of functionality is part of it. And
okay.
then how do you start becoming positive and how do you move into forward motion yet still honor that grief? And
Mm,
how I work with it is the infinity symbol, like a figure eight on its side. I
yeah.
need to go into the pain and then I need to go into the vision and I need to go into the pain and I need to go into the vision. And it's that constant dance between I hate feeling this, but
Mm.
I have to feel it because each side of that infinity symbol is equal. And I
I
have to do that.
That is such a beautiful visualization of the importance of sitting with the pain and then also the vision of, the future, the moving forward, whatever that, we'll explore that in a second. But I love that as a visual. I'm such a visual person too, and a lot of the people I work with are too, and the listeners will be. So having
Yes.
that can be a lovely holding way of realizing the importance and the fluidity of that too, because the affinity symbol, right? Like you move,
Yes.
like it's like I sometimes describe it to clients like a dance, but
Yes.
this is a lovely visual, something we all know as well, the infinity symbol. You mentioned there the word grief, and I just wanted to come to that. Sounds like betrayal and grief are partners. Like that's because you said sitting with that grief. Can you, yeah,
Hmm.
I just wanted to unpack that a bit. Can you tell us a bit about the grief?
Yeah. There is a mourning of a loss of the identity.
Mm,
Grief happens when you lose something. And the thing is with betrayal, you lose yourself. And
mm,
there's grief in losing yourself.
mm,
And I kept thinking I was so good and kind and young and idealistic. And to think for 23 years, that was that was the life of my children and my marriage. And I would see myself as that woman who tried so hard and, who would smile through painful moments and dig deep, all the things that we do. But I had such grief for her
yeah.
because
Yeah.
she was innocent and trusting and she was dropped. She
Yeah.
was let down.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. So part of that, and we'll get to this soon, like how to meet that pain and what you do there. But part of that affinity, that pain is the grief for the loss. Oh, and the loss, but the losses that that woman, that part of you experienced because she went through a lot and this whole shattering. Yeah, like
Yeah.
grief for
Yeah.
loss of that
Because,
identity. But what she went through, that identity
yeah.
went through. Because yeah, she had to grimace
Yeah.
through pain. She had to smile when she wasn't, yeah.
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 Because I can never be that woman again.
And can't be, yeah. Yeah. It's so because that's often comes up in my work too, and in my experience as well. There was a lot of grief and loss and anger actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is that another one?
Oh,
Anger.
yeah.
I was just like,
Oh,
so
yes.
yeah, there was grief, which sadness is in that. I mean, grief is such a curious creature as well. I always think of grief as those five Kubler-Ross she talked about. It often gets called five stages, but it's not about stages, just five things that can show up in grief. And yeah, there's that, depression, deep sadness, there's the anger. Like, and so yeah, so
Hmm.
it's part of the betrayal too. It
Oh,
makes,
yes.
yeah. Can you speak
Yeah.
to a bit more about that in case listeners are going, yes.
Yeah. It's fury. It is absolute fury at how could somebody do this to me? How could somebody that they say loved me do this to me? But
Mm,
then there's also that anger at yourself. How did I not see this? How did I not know? what did I miss? How could I have been so stupid?
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of that internalized judgment is really that anger. Like it's the emotion of anger at ourselves. We're angry at the person or system or whatever it is that has not lived up to the expectations that we've held of them. But yeah, that internalized anger, which a lot of women do hold, we often hold more of that, that I'm at fault, I failed, I'm not smart enough, good enough,
Hmm.
perfect enough, like that enough
Hmm.
story, right? Um,
Yeah.
so anger within, yeah, at self, it's such a debilitating um, thing that happens when we get stuck there.
Yeah.
Or either
And
way.
also, oh, totally. But
Mm.
also, typically women don't have, I don't want to say it's not that they don't have access to anger, but they have not been taught to cultivate and express anger in a healthy way. It's go to your room, young lady, take that somewhere else.
Yeah,
Or, whoa, what's going on with you? Like,
yeah,
are you hormonal? Like, we don't honor anger in women. So women are not good at expressing anger. And that was something else that I really had to learn. Like, this is anger and I am feeling and it's righteous.
yeah.
And how do I do that?
That is so true. Like, in order to be able to express a very normal human emotion, which all our emotions are normal, we need a relationship where we've been taught and encouraged to express it. And generally, our gender, yes, hasn't. I've noticed that in myself too. I feel anger now.
Oh, yeah.
But before it was there, but I wasn't allowing it because of that learned, girls don't get angry. That means you're a
No,
bitch.
exactly.
And God
Exactly.
forbid that you're just asserting your opinion, you're still a bitch. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah.
but yeah, but I wonder too, it made me think, oh, this is what I think, that because we haven't been encouraged and allowed and given permission to express anger and anger out to where it needs to be, that's why I think we see a lot of anger inwards because it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And if we haven't been taught that it's okay to be angry at someone else when they've betrayed us or whatever, um,
Yeah.
where else does it go but to ourselves? Like we stuffed up, we did the wrong thing, it's my
Hmm.
fault. And so all that shaming and blaming itself, yeah, and I'm coming back to your affinity, that pain, and we can get stuck in the pain because of just how those messages of upbringing around our feelings. And I know I also got stuck in my pain because I had an early experience that made me really fearful of sadness. Um,
Hmm.
and and I didn't realize, this came out in therapy, that I was stuck and not expressing my sadness because of that experience. So I had to learn, just like people learn that it's okay to express anger, I had to learn that it was okay to express my sadness.
Hmm.
But yeah, because most of the time our emotions just need expression. They need to be heard, right? But we can get stuck
Yes.
in that pain side. Yeah.
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 One of the things I wanted to come to in what you're sharing about the experience of betrayal and how, yeah, burnout. Yeah, I wanted to come to that because you mentioned there when you were betrayed by your husband with the infidelity, and you'd already been through your burnout and doing work around that, but you then went, oh, there was a betrayal there. I was wondering if you can talk to, yeah, the work or industry betrayal that, yeah, because I'm sure many people have experienced this with their workplaces. Mm.
Oh, absolutely. It all comes down to the expectations. What
Um,
did you expect when you started your career?
mm,
And think about that. I expected that I would go in, that yes, I'm a young attorney, I'm starting off as an associate, but I expect that I will be able to progress. I expect that I'll be able to have promotions, that I'll get raises. I expect that I'll be treated the same as the males. I expect that if there's a conflict, we can all discuss it amongst ourselves and people will understand me.
mm,
I expected once I had kids that sure, it's tough to have a work-life balance, but I expected that I could just manage it. I expected I could be able to continue to work out and have hobbies. I expected my husband and I would be this perfect team, that we
mm,
wouldn't have a lot of misunderstandings. I
mm,
had, it wasn't a completely idealized view, but I did have a view that was idealized. Well,
mm,
then you go to work. my company merged.
Mm,
You know, I went from my nice office to a cubicle. I
mm,
was never promised a nice office, but being told, "Oh, you're being moved to a cubicle," it feels like well, that's not what you promised. That's not what I should get. You know, instead of having this open communication, you start becoming aware, wow, there is sexism is alive and well. Wow,
mm,
didn't see that one coming. It feels like a betrayal. Your commute feels longer and longer. It's
mm,
harder to get to daycare on time. You're thinking, this isn't the way I planned it.
mm,
You know, my grandparents aging, they were a support system. Not that I consciously thought they're never going to age, but it was like, you're kidding me, right? I didn't see this one coming.
mm,
So it's just these constant broken expectations. And one of the phrases that people say to me a lot is, this isn't what I signed up for. That's a betrayal. When you think this is what I'm signing up for and you get something different, that's a clue that what you're feeling is a sense of betrayal.
mm.
And doing more meditation isn't going to help that.
Yeah, but I
Doing
can
yoga doesn't fix it. Yeah.
no, because you haven't got down to that deep core betrayal, this experience, and really unpacked those expectations and everything that's come with it, and being able to sit, yeah, all of the stuff. Yeah, you
Yeah.
like the core work is quite internal, isn't it? To be able to
Hmm.
move through this very soul-shattering, as you said, experience that we arrive to this place of yeah, just these mounting expectations, or mounting betrayals, mounting unmet
Yes.
expectations that we're not noticing along the way because, well, we're trying to live and deal, but
Yeah.
something happens to, or and I often think burnout is a teacher. Like it's often just the blow up that there's something not right here. There's something going on here. We need to pay attention. And often it's what I think it's the deeper work. It's the going in. It's the soul work. It's the yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
those outside things help, boundaries, self-care, those actions. But if we don't do the deep work, the deep soul
Hmm.
work. And I love this
Yeah.
betrayal. It's like the missing link that I haven't, it's kind of scattered around, but your experience and your knowledge and wisdom around this is amazing. So how do you, I know you have an approach. I think it's called, is it Fuel Up?
Yes. Yes.
Fuel Up,
I've got,
yeah. Would it be
yeah.
okay to share a bit about that so we can look at, well, how do you work with this? Like we've unpacked, the betrayal and what that looks like and how that comes to be, both work-wise, personal life, because I love how it's never just one area, right? It's
No, it never
multiple
is.
relationships. I remember, and I'm still working through this one, but betrayal in relationships, but friendships, but it's often been around. Not that I named it betrayal, but now I will. But I did name the
Exactly.
expectations, like that I held a lot of expectations of others and what friendship should look like and relationships should look like. And yeah, I didn't think of it, but what I'm feeling is betrayal, that it's not where I'd like it to be. Anyway, so
Yeah.
it's multiple
Yeah.
areas. Hmm.
Yeah, it is. It is. And yes, and I'm happy to go through Fuel Up, and I will. But to your point there, what I wanted to say, I have two frameworks. One is the internal and one is the external, because how we feel dictates what we do. And
Mm,
it's a slightly different process to manage the internal
mm,
and the relationship, like you said, with betrayal and with ourselves as it is to manage our relationships with our coworkers, our
mm,
families, our friends.
mm. Well, yeah. So with the fuel up approach, is that covers those dynamics, like the internal and
That is,
external? Yeah.
yeah, that is between you and another person. That is between you and your career or you and your partner, or this is what we do externally to manage the relationship. So I just wanted to be clear that
Yeah.
there's two sides of that.
So
Yeah.
important. I'm glad that you did. And even though I haven't articulated that way, but when I work with clients, there's yeah, the internal work, but then there's external as well. Like, yeah, that relational or that dynamic or changes needed there and working on any skills or things needed there. But then there's the internal work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strategies needed there. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So fuel up is between you and somebody else. And
Okay.
that, yeah. And the F stands for find your why.
Mm,
Why are you having this conversation? Why are you working in this area? Why? What is the why behind this? Are
mm,
you working for a nonprofit because you believe in the mission so much? Are you just working because you just need money and you want to give your family the things that they need? Why are you in this relationship? What is it giving you? So finding your why is the place to start
mm.
because, you talked about connection and belonging. When you can articulate why we are in this relationship, why it matters, it allows you to let go of so much of the superfluous things. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter about that. I believe in the mission. It doesn't matter if there's some difficult people. I can manage them because I'm committed to the mission.
Yeah, it's like an anchor, isn't it? The why. Like
Yes.
I just sorry, like just it holds you. There could be stormy weather in your boat, in your
Yes.
yacht if you want it to be. Like
I like that.
it's our imagination. Yay. I always for some reason have a dinghy, or we call it just a
Yep.
basic steel boat. I think because my dad had one growing up. So we had the dinghy. But yeah, it's an anchor. The why is an anchor. That's what I just felt as you shared that. And that's often something I talk about it as a value, like, but it's essentially a why. It's your meaning, it's your purpose, it's why you're there. Could be finance,
Hmm.
yeah, it could be anything, but it's that point to keep coming back to when, yeah, there might be challenging situations, but if that why is connecting, it helps you belong there, helps you anchor there. But if there's no
Yeah,
why anymore, then maybe that's not a place to be. I
exactly.
love that.
Exactly.
That's the starting place. Yeah. F is
Yeah, that's where to start.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Find your why.
And yeah, and the U is the next place to go. And that's uncover what's really going on.
Mm,
Usually, what we think is going on is not what's going on. And
mm,
what I challenge people to do is name the problem. Like you might name the problem, I'm burned out.
mm,
Okay, well, what's really beneath that? Go two more levels deep. What is beneath burned out?
mm,
Okay, let me think. I'm just really tired. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm really tired. Okay, what is below that? Well, actually, I feel like there might be something medical going on. Maybe it's perimenopause. Maybe it's so what is real? I don't know what's going on. I can't sleep.
mm,
So you start seeing the real problem isn't I'm burned out. The real problem is I'm tired and I can't figure out how to fall asleep because no matter what I do, I can't fall
mm.
asleep. So I always challenge just to go two levels deeper and uncover what might really be happening for you.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. It reminds me of in cognitive behavioral therapy. Have you heard of that? Everyone's heard about
Mhm.
CBT these days. But in that training, because they back when I did psych training, that's one of the gold standard practices. They still teach that, but they teach other things now. But they have this exercise called downward arrow. But it is all about like going from the surface thought, like they use the thought, which I suppose, I'm burnt out. Maybe that's a constant thought,
The thought.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but I love, they have different questions to help, but essentially help the person go deeper, really find that core issue. It just reminded me of that framework and just what we've already been discussing. The work is the deeper work. It's really uncovering the unconscious or what's going on underneath the surface. What really is the problem? I love that.
Mhm.
Rather than
Mhm.
just accepting what that automatic thought is, oh, well, I'm burnt out. Well, let's
What does that mean?
yeah, I love it. I
What
love
does
it.
it
And
mean?
it makes sense. It because yeah, there's many reasons why we're burnt out. Let's find what's going on. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And then the E, fuel, FUE, is expectation management.
Mm,
And there are three core pieces of expectation management.
mm,
First is being able to identify what is my expectation. And
mm,
it's as simple as asking that, what do I expect from this interaction? What
yeah.
do I expect from this meeting? What do I expect from this career?
Mm,
Asking that,
love it.
because then you can determine, well, that's not realistic,
Mm,
or yes. And then the next one is to communicate that. Even if you and I are sitting down to lunch, and
Mm,
my expectation is that you are going to ask me to be your new roommate,
mm,
I need to communicate. I'm so happy that we're having lunch together. I'm really hoping that we hit it off to the point that you asked me to be your new roommate. I
mm.
need to communicate that instead of going around and beating around the bush and then and then the third point of expectation management is being comfortable learning how to advocate on behalf of that expectation.
Yeah. Be a voice for your expectation. Be a voice for yourself, but it's that voice for that expectation. And I love it's one we have to identify it within ourselves. So that's that
Mhm.
self to self relationship. What have I, yeah, what expectations do I hold with the career, the work, the person? But I love then it's the communication. Well, I need to be clear about that with the other person. They don't know. They're not a mind reader. Open
No.
communication is key in relationships. Hard to do, but I just have some
Yes.
experience with that one too. I find it hard. It's so vulnerable. But I love that third one too. It goes that extra level. What was it? Sorry, my brain.
Advocate. Yeah,
Advocate.
advocate.
Because it's almost
Yeah.
like I get a sense of when you said advocate for that expectation, for me, it felt like an opposite of self-betrayal and more of a, yeah, well, I suppose the opposite self-advocacy or self
Mhm.
expression or yeah, advocacy, I suppose, like if we don't communicate what we expect, how can we expect to get it, or even have an
Yes.
opportunity to have that be met. I love
Yeah.
it. It has so many layers to it that is so healing and preventative as well, like of
Yes.
further, I mean, not that, not everyone can meet our expectations, but at least it's not this build up of really deep-seated soul-shattering betrayal. Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know. I just
absolutely.
see the beauty in that. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And
Mm,
then the L in Fuel Up stands for laughter. Laughter is the number one way to calm and re-regulate our nervous system.
mm,
And when things get stressed, we move away from laughter.
me
And
too.
when we can just remember to laugh, remember to smile, remember to step back, even if, I'm not a huge social media fan, but
Mm,
even if you can scroll and find a
mm,
video of a baby or a puppy that makes you just smile,
mm, mm,
having that laughter pause
mm.
really is grounding and it can
Yeah.
shift your energy. And then when your energy is refreshed, those around you are going to be more refreshed too.
I love that. It just it makes me think of some conversations with my partner and every now, not as an avoidant thing, but that I will shift the conversation, when it's really serious, just for a moment. Like often we're having serious conversations when we're walking together, it seems to be,
Hmm.
where my partner opens up more, but yeah, just where things flow a bit more. But just to like we both do this now, we might bring lightness to the conversation by, oh, look at the moon, like last night, or I don't know, just something. But I wonder if that's sort of somewhat intuitively just knowing that we need a break from the seriousness. I mean, we don't communicate that, but we come back. We're not we used to be avoiders. We're no longer. We do talk about the stuff, but just I love the idea of laughter. It's, to remember to bring lightness to in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like with
Hmm.
the other or with yourself. I love that's how I use social media too, to have a laugh.
Yes.
Book, like I've got this book at the moment that's actually on something really serious, but the way she writes is just she brings humor, but not in a mocking way to the really serious
Yes.
issues. She just, um, I think, yeah. So I'm thinking out loud again, but laughter so essential with this. I see why you've made a point of that. It's so important.
Hmm.
We need the
Yeah.
light and the dark. Affinity.
Yeah. And even exactly. And even with brain health, you talked about we're wired to survive. When we're in that state of fight, flight, or freeze, we are in the survival portion of our brain. We're not being creative. We're not being relational. We're not being rational. We're in fix this, survive. I
Mm,
don't care who I trample and who I run over. I got to survive.
yeah.
And laughter can just bring us back to that prefrontal cortex so we can make better
Yes.
decisions.
Yeah, neurologically, yeah, that's helping you. It makes me think there's this model in compassion focused therapy that it's a therapeutic approach I use
but they talk about the three circles of emotional regulation, which stems from pulling together a very simple model to a very complex brain. But as you shared, when we're in that threat mode, yeah, we're not in connection, we're not relational, we're just about survival, protect. There's a lion coming at us, it's going to eat us. We need to run or freeze or
Yeah.
fight. But the laughter pulls us. I was thinking they talk about the soothing connect affiliate system, which I'm not good with which side of the brain that uses, but it's probably that. And laughter can pull us into that because,
Yeah.
yeah, and then we can drive from the other system's the drive system, but pulls us out of the threat. Because in these kind of situations, although we feel threatened, betrayal, we fall in that threat system, we
Hmm.
need to be in the other systems to really move forward to, that other side of the affinity. Like we're not going to move forward with staying in threat system because it only moves us to fight, flee, or to
Yeah.
freeze. Yeah, and
Yeah.
flop. So like I can, yeah, see all that. That's just with the frameworks I know. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
really cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
So Fuel Up, as you said, that's more to help with the external, but I feel like it really helps with the internal too.
It does. It does. Because I feel like you have to have, I mean, again, it's that infinity.
Definitely.
You have to have a little bit of both sides. But
Mm.
that's, if you can keep that in mind when you're connecting with somebody, it's going to help that relationship. And yes, part of the reason that it helps is we also have that internal, growth going on.
Yeah. And this is
Mhm.
how did you come about Fuel? Like I feel like, yeah, it's that journey. And because you have mentioned in your own recovery and growth from what you've been through and burnout, betrayal, uh that you went on felt like a discovery journey, really exploring,
Yes.
really. But yeah, how did Fuel come about? How did your work come about here? Like how did you, yeah, get there? Mm.
Yeah, this sounds so bizarre, but I think you'll understand.
Yeah.
I feel like some of it was divinely downloaded.
Mm.
I really feel that because I was in such pain and I was in such a low point, especially after the infidelity. And it was just, help me. What do I need to do? And then started experimenting with some of these things and it just worked. And
Yeah.
yes, there were things that were edited along the way too, but
Yeah, because you're
yeah,
experimenting. I really appreciate you sharing that because I think, and I know my industry in and of itself has moved away from that because when I read about earlier psychs, that this more intuitive, more experimental, soul-driven kind of work. I think even psych meant soul or something. Anyway, putting my industry aside, but I know they've kind of driven us more to, and good things too. But this is important. I feel, and often the work that I do is helping people come back to themselves to listen, and to be able to really truly listen to themselves and to experiment, explore. Like I don't have the answers for you. I have knowledge and wisdom and shared that I can share with you, but that I want to, it's almost like teaching the person to fish rather than fish for them. But I feel like
yeah.
we have like listening to ourselves and experimenting as a human will find our way. That way
Mm.
might look very different to my way, or similar, or crossovers, or different language, different little ways. But we're
Yeah.
unique human beings with each having a unique thumbprint. Like, why would we
Mhm.
have the same print with working through betrayal or burnout or whatever it might be? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot to what you say around your experience, and Fuel came from that, came from you
Hmm.
coming back to yourself, and that could be a print that will work for some, or they'll find their variation of it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
just
the
I get that.
questions,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like that, the questions are broad enough, like finding your why. My why is different than yours, and mine might be different with,
Exactly.
and then uncover what's really going on. Well, we can both say we're burned out. Mine can be, a root cause of perimenopause. Yours can be addiction recovery. Yours can be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They're broad enough because they are all very important. Like as you were sharing, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I do that with active value works, or I do that with the CBT, or I do that. Oh, like, like, and you know what actually I've found? I don't know if you find this with the people you work with as well, but having a framework, having some sort of way in which they can find those things, they can bring those things into their consciousness.
Huge.
Um, and Fuel gives the framework to do that. It's broad enough for them to find their unique thing within it. And I think I just know how much, especially when you're in that depths of the pain, which often the people we see that they're in the depths of it
Are.
to some level. And so that frame can give them an anchor, so to say, to start to, yeah, I often say
Yeah.
unpack, but unravel or undo to then find that vision or that direction to move.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then, yeah, and then it becomes a habit that you start carrying forward in different relationships. And it
Yeah.
helps. I mean, like I have young adult children. They can be frustrating. But when I identify what is my why, this interaction might be to inspire my son to take action on a new job or something like this. Okay,
Mhm.
that's my why. Now I can frame the conversation versus my why is just to spend quality time and enjoy you. Then I can let all this stuff go because my why is just having fun.
Oh, thank you for bringing that personal example too, because I know you've given the work one before, but yeah, how that could work there. Because so many of the women that I see too, it's that work and the parenting, whether it's some are at the stage where it's adult children, some are still very young, or the adolescent teen years. Oh my God, all
Yeah.
various. So how it can be brought to that as well. It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that wisdom that you arrived to and how that works for you, because that's so beautiful to share that so willingly as well. One of the things I actually did have as a question, because I know you've worn many hats too, like with the attorney. Is that
Yes.
in America? Because I think we call it lawyer, but is it attorney or is there different?
Same difference.
Yeah.
Same difference. Hmm.
Being on different sides of the world, different language, even with same language, different terms
Oh, yeah.
course. But like now, like where you're, because if I remember rightly, you coach. Is that, yeah?
Hmm.
What are you
Hmm.
doing now with this? I mean, we know what you're doing with the fuel up and the processes and where you work, but yeah, how do you do that? Are you in your own business or? Where?
Yeah, yeah. My business is life choreography, coaching, and advocacy.
Mm,
And I work like you, mostly with women, but I've got some men too. And whether it is infidelity and betrayal, or it's self-betrayal, or
yeah.
it's that workplace betrayal, I work with women, again, some men, online, coaching them through the process, asking some of the questions, getting to the root cause, helping them figure out what they need, what they want. A lot of it is just helping people learn how to say what they want to say and
Mm,
how to say, you talked with that uncomfortable emotion.
mm,
Sometimes just sitting with the uncomfortable emotion of, I need to say something that is hard to say.
yeah.
And then we can role play it, we can practice it, we can refine their words, we
Mm,
can, challenge, we can, yeah.
yeah.
It's like you, it's that coming back home to themselves in a lot of
Yeah.
ways and
I
stopping self-betrayal.
Yeah, yeah. Because even with that other betrayal, not that they're responsible for the other person's or system, workplace's actions, of course, but there might have
Hmm.
been some self-play in that, like, not advocating for self and whatever was blocking that. But yeah, I was curious too
Yeah.
in the work and what a shift that you've made too. Can I just say to go from an attorney to coaching and the work you do being just whoa, what a shift. I've met so many people who've done that. They've been through such a shattering, life-changing experience and it's led them, their soul's led them, or they've listened to the soul and they've led them to other spaces. And I just think that's amazing. I mean, what's it been like for you to shift and change
Yeah.
careers? Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because at first I had kind of an identity crisis,
Okay.
because who am I and why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then again, kind of using that whole fuel up framework and uncovering what was really going on. I went to law school because I'm a big believer in justice. I
Mm.
wanted to create justice in the world. I wanted to help people create their own justice. I wanted fairness for all. And it was like such a shivery moment when I realized that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people create justice in their homes, in their families, in their hearts, in their relationships at work. I am creating justice. It's just in a different way.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That was another moment of that light coming because I always feel like it's my soul connecting to what you're saying. I think that's what that is. And it's like, I'm going to reflect on that later for myself because I do have, well, I'm realizing I have a strong sense of justice, but I've never really connected with that and how that might connect with my work. It's so, I
Mhm.
see that, yeah, you're still following your why in a
Yeah.
different, but in a different way. Well, yeah, in a different way, but it's
Hmm.
still the same why. Wow. And I imagine you said, yeah, that identity crisis that you went through and connecting with that why, how did that help that sense of who am I, the identity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It helped in several different ways. It was that continuity that I needed.
Mm,
You had said something earlier about like feeling like you're not doing well at work. And I was thinking it's like imposter syndrome when I think, how am I doing this? And I'm not good enough.
mm,
Finding that why gets rid of all of that sense of imposter syndrome. And it's like, no, I'm still me.
mm,
I can leave work. I could fail at work. I could succeed at work, and I'm still me.
mm,
I can have a faithful husband. I can have a cheating husband, and I'm still me.
mm,
All of the things can happen, but I am still me. And
mm,
it's just it really proved to myself, for lack of a better word, that yes,
mm,
I matter, my beliefs matter, my whys matter, and I can still be me, but it can reflect differently.
So letting go of that. I suppose the word in my head is like it's not my responsibility, or
Hmm.
yeah, I'm still like, yeah, my why, like justice or whatever it is, and I'm doing my best there. I'm me. I'm that. But yeah, these other, systems, people, I'm not responsible for the choices they're making. That might be blocking or making it harder for us to achieve our why. But
Exactly.
it doesn't change the fact that you're a person who values justice. I'm still me. Yeah. Regardless
Yeah.
of I often talk about like, regardless of the outcomes, because often we're focused on the outcome and what that looks like, the a faithful husband or a happy marriage. Um, and our value based on that outcome, that achievement, which is not in your control anyway. But
No.
if our why is, to be loving or I don't know, compassion or whatever it might be, that just because the outcome's different doesn't change
Who
what
I am.
what your why is and who you are. Yeah, yeah, I think I'm
Hmm.
good. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I suppose one last thing that I wanted to touch on, but I really felt like certainly you've talked to this, but I'm just mindful listeners might be thinking about this one because I know we've talked about self-betrayal and that relationship with self and more importantly, what I was thinking about is how we can get angry at ourselves and beat ourselves up and that we're to blame, even if it's a systemic or a person thing.
Yes.
Um, and I was just, through the processes that you shared or maybe haven't shared, just I suppose what you notice really helps women and men in that area of being able to let go of that anger itself. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's such a big
Um,
one. Yeah.
it's a really big one, and I wish I could just say, like, say these three magic words and then it'll all go away.
Not easy. I mean, it's not an easy
No.
answer. It's not an
Yeah,
easy process.
it's not easy. And like we've talked about, for other people too, it's not always the same. But what I have found, I think is the biggest thing is having this view that I'm pausing because I'm thinking there's like two equal things that I want to say all at the same time. I think first is kind of this view that it's all an experiment anyway. And when we have an experiment, we can be shocked by the outcome or we can be disappointed by the outcome. But when we go at it thinking about everything is an experiment and I'm getting feedback from this And if this feedback is not something that I want, I get to pivot. If
Mm.
this, yeah, if this response is something that I want, maybe I can do it again. But just having more of that experimental mindset instead of yes, no, right, wrong, good, bad. It's an experiment. Did it work? Not the way I wanted. Okay, what can I do differently?
Mm.
Because one of my favorite quotes is an Einstein quote,
Mm.
and it's to the effect of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
True.
And I think that's where a lot of our anger comes from. We keep doing it and we lean in harder and we think it's right or wrong. And somebody told me I'm going to do it and it didn't work out.
Mm.
Back off. It's an experiment. What works, what doesn't.
Yeah, I love it. It's almost like yeah, I'm just thinking like it's focusing on like if we focus, I even think like a lot of the fuel up that, the way in which to work when we're focused on those things, well then and what you were saying that comes with that too, the experimentation. I also heard choice there, that I've got choices here. Whereas when we're staying in that trap of expectations and doing the same thing over and over again, and having the same expectations of self, others, and the world, that anger is only going to build. And for
Yeah.
some of us, that anger is inwards. And so we're going to get the same outcome. But if we change those processes, if we, look at our why, we uncover and do
Yes.
that work, our mindset changes, our processes change. So therefore, the anger itself will change because it's no longer there, like in that
Yeah.
other process. Or if it comes in, it won't stay for long because there's not that betrayal, that constant betrayal of expectations. That's just how
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like rather than targeting the self-hatred directly or the self-critical directly, shifting ways in which we do things that take away the cause of that, the cause of the
Hmm.
anger itself. I don't know. I just, yeah, I like it. I like
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how
whole
you were
point.
saying that because it nullifies the anger in a way.
I love
It's
that.
like if you plant a pumpkin seed and a pumpkin comes up, okay, but if you plant a pumpkin seed and you're expecting a zucchini to come up, why would you be angry?
Yeah.
It's just an experiment, you know? Let's
And
let's see what it is.
I love it. If that's the other thing I felt, and you just brought that back to me, there's flexibility in that too. When we say I'm experimenting, I can pivot if this doesn't work out. Like if
Yes.
I plant this plant, I love that. And zucchini comes out. Okay, well, that didn't work.
Didn't
Let's
work.
pivot. Like it,
Yeah.
often there's another approach I use called acceptance and commitment therapy, and they talk about, well, their approach, their framework is to help build flexibility, psychological flexibility. So they teach ways in which to help meet ourselves, our feelings, our thoughts. And they do the connecting to why. They just talk about values. But what they're trying to aim for, helping, or what they've found in the evidence, is it builds this more flexibility rather than being rigid. Like
Yeah.
being rigid towards our feelings. Like only a strong person, oh, sorry, only a weak person feels anxiety. Well, that's a rigid belief.
Yeah.
So it's just moving a person from any rigidity around that to flexibility. And experimentation and choice feels flexible in the body,
Yes.
rather than a goal
Yes.
or outcome. It has to be this way. It has to be a pumpkin. That,
Right.
yeah, it's like, let's not hold so tightly on the outcome, especially when it's not in our control. Like, yeah, working hard at work, meaning
Right.
that you'll be rewarded. Maybe not.
Maybe, maybe not. Yeah.
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 Like, look,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll work hard and see what that gets. But if I'm not appreciated or rewarded in the way that I feel, and have I
I
communicated
can
that?
pivot.
Yeah, then pivot.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
move out.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I pivoted from doing working in the way that I used to work, but I wasn't pivoting before. I kept expecting myself, well, this is how you do it.
Right.
This is what successful psychologist looks like.
Yes.
I was a
Exactly.
very unhappy psychologist, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what's
Mm-hmm.
like. But when I
Yeah.
finally pivoted,
Then
I'm
it feels better.
I'm a happier psychologist than I was before.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And then the second thing when I paused and I was like,
Yeah.
gosh, there's two things that are
Oh,
equal.
sorry.
Yeah. No, the second thing is really movement. We get so stuck in our head figuring it out, and then we create anger based on expectations, and we think we should be angry. And if somebody else did this to me, and it's this head game. And when we drop into the body, and like you mentioned, taking a walk, looking at the moon, work out, jog, get mad, shadow box, lift heavy weights, turn on music, and just dance your face off for a while. You can't be angry when you've just listened to your favorite playlist and danced. You just can't. It flows out of your body. So just move it.
Movement, you just move it. I love that. It's a way to channel that anger in a positive way, because anger,
Yeah.
I often talk to clients, say it's such an emotion with lots of energy.
Hmm.
And often it doesn't serve anyone or it doesn't serve us to be angry at ourselves. And it certainly doesn't serve, especially if we don't have access to. But regardless, I think even if we do have channels of expression of that anger in healthy ways, we still need to move that energy as well. And I love
Hmm.
that. Very important movement. Yeah, movement
Yeah.
is key, especially with anger. I feel like with other
Yes.
emotions, movement may not be as necessary. Sometimes with anxiety, depending on the person.
Hmm.
Sadness often feels more comfort seeking. Um,
Yes.
needs to be held, but anger needs to be moved. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it
but in a
does.
healthy way. Yeah, we don't want to be yelling and screaming at ourselves or others.
No,
I mean, we're
no.
all human, we've done it, but let's,
Right.
yeah,
But yeah, there's nothing
yeah,
better than pumping heavy weights or sprinting up a hill and just
yeah.
wearing yourself out physically.
Yeah, I found I go through I get bored very easy, so I move through things. But I went through a stage of just dancing privately, but it was so awesome, so fun, just to put on some tunes and dance. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
dancing's my thing. I mean, I used to run.
me
There's lots of
too.
reasons, but yes, can't run anymore. But
Yep.
finding that movement, that works for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, well, Laura, it's been just awesome. I've had so many moments of what I've identified now as soul connection of like, oh, yep, my
Love
soul
it.
going, that is important. That is connecting. And I'm sure the listeners have as well. I really appreciate just your willingness to not only share your professional, but your personal experience, bringing that in thank you, that shows a
You're
lot of courage
welcome.
and bravery. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation as well.
Yeah, I feel like we could keep going, but we'll
I
leave it.
know.
But in saying that, certainly I always invite, of course, listeners or people watching on YouTube, if there's any further questions you have, I mean, please reach out, please let us know, please comment. I can always approach Laura for maybe a future episode with any maybe burning questions that are still sitting with you. I can invite Laura back on
Yes.
in the future. Yes, you don't
Yes,
have to commit to
please.
that right now, but yeah.
No, but what you said about questions too. Yes, please, sit with this, process it because we talked about a lot of deep stuff and sometimes it takes time. So please ask.
Yeah. And how can people reach you? Because you mentioned that you're online too. So does that do you see people all over the world? Like what's
I do.
oh,
Yeah, I
because you're in the
do.
lovely Colorado space. But all over the
Yes.
world, that is beautiful. So what's the best way for people to touch base with you to check out your work and what you
Yeah. My website is loracheadle.com and it's spelled Lora, which is a slightly different way to spell Laura, but it's Loracheadle. And you can also find me on social media at Lora Cheadle and just send me a message. I'd
yeah.
love to chat.
And I'll make sure those details are also in the show notes as well, so people can reach them there. Click on
Lovely.
there. But well, thank you so very much, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on Midlife Reclaimed. I am Shannon A. Swales, and I hope the conversation today sparks some ideas, helps support you along your way in reclaiming your midlife.
Now, if you'd like to stay connected, and we encourage you to do so, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and stay in contact with Midlife Reclaimed episodes. You can also follow us on social media under Shannon A. Swales. And also, if you want to dive deeper into this and be part of a community, check out our Midlife Reclaimed membership. The link is in the show notes. Now, before you go, please remember that if you're feeling overwhelmed, distressed, seek professional support. This podcast, whilst delivers valuable content, it is general in nature, is not a replacement for therapist-client relationships. So we, from the bottom of our heart, encourage you to seek that support. We're not meant to do this alone. Let's reclaim our midlife together, one courageous, bold step at a time. Take care of you. Bye for now.